Hello and thank you for joining us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. I am Ayodele Uzubaku. Today on the program, Asuu steps up mobilization for industrial action as Middle Belt Group warns federal government not to allow another strike. Local government election fever grips Enugu State as Governor Gwai takes campaign to the markets. And later on the show, Governor Zulum seeks political solution to insurgency as General Townsend argues that military forces alone cannot defeat violent extremism. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adewale Adoyi. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's start on a note of commendation for one of Nigeria's finest police officers and image makers, CP Frank Mba, the first public relations officer who has handed over the baton to his deputy Olumuyiwa Adejobi. Mba is proceeding to the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, in Kuru, Jos, for his senior executive course. We wish him well. Babajide, fine officer. From his days in Lagos as a police PRO, down two-time PRO, and Mba really showed actually class and finesse.
Yes, and we just hope that the man who is taking over will do a very good job, will fill the shoes that Frank has left behind. The way Frank did the job,
honestly,
you not even want him to leave that position.
Honestly,
but the important thing is that he has to also make progress. He can't be.
He's a commissioner of police.
First PRO forever. So he has to make progress, and other people too need to be given a chance to show what they can do. And that's why there's a new man on the saddle now. We wish him Godspeed, and it is our desire that the standards that Frank left behind will not fall in any way.
This is the man. This is the man that he relates with editors, reporters, and across board. Even if you have serious problem with the police and you want to bash the Nigerian police force, he has a way of calming everybody down. Even sometimes when we talk about the police on the program, we have a way of reaching out to us to say, guys, this is our own side.
I think he's somebody that takes his career very seriously. His civil relationship between the police and the civil society was excellent. His relationship with the media was superb, and he is a naturally humane person, and this is the kind of person that I think we hope one day will become the IG of this country. He's a super cop, and I wish him the best of luck.
So we wish the new man that Olumuyiwa Adejobi the best of luck as he tries to continue to protect the image of the Nigeria police force. Now, for a center of excellence like Lagos, academic prowess is required to sustain the status. In this regard, the National University Commission, NUC, has issued letters of approval for 2 new specialized universities in Lagos. The universities are Lagos State University of Science and Technology and University of Education, Lagos. The governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and some top government officials were at the NUC Secretariat in Abuja to receive the letter of recognition. Let's share the story by TVC News' Celestina Ira with you.
The bills are sent to by Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on 2nd February 2022, convert the Lagos State Polytechnic to the Lagos State University of Science and Technology, while it merged the Adeniran Ogunsayan College of Education and the Michael Tedela College of Primary Education to become Lagos State University of Education. This move is aimed at improving quality assurance and removing the dichotomy in employability of polytechnic graduates vis-a-vis their counterparts in universities.
Tech in Lagos.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Governor of Lagos State Babajide Sanwo-Olu in Abuja presented documents for the proposed universities. He explained that the conversion of these high institutions to universities was to add value to science, technology, vocational and entrepreneurship skills development needed for the rapid socio-economic growth of the state and the nation at large.
Education, we say that is the only way that you can take people out of complete poverty and you can create an enabling environment for our youth, for our kids, to be somebody in future. And so whilst that continues to drive our economic agenda, education becomes one of our real cardinal pillars of growth and governance.
On his part, the Executive Secretary of the NUC acknowledged Lagos State as the headquarters of university education in Nigeria. He noted the conduct of Lagos State government in running the Lagos State University was put into consideration in the recognition of the two new universities.
For my highest considerations and best wishes.
Subsequently, 2 letters of recognition were handed over to the Lagos State Governor.
State University, you ignore and neglect that state university, and then you want to create another university to justify why that one has failed. But when we were approached about this, the request by Lagos, we all agreed in the management that if Lagos State wants to create 10 universities under Mr. Sanwo-Olu, we will approve.
These 2 universities are in addition to the existing Lagos State University, Asuu, established in 1982 by the first executive governor of Lagos State, late Lateef Jakande. Celestina Area, TVC News, Abuja.
The Secretary of the National University Commission there saying if Lagos State is requesting for 10 universities under Sanwo-Olu that they are going to approve. Now, the beauty of this university that has just been approved is it's not that they are going to start from the scratch. It has always been a school. The infrastructure and everything has been there.
Yes, and we was right when he said some states will neglect some state universities and create new ones. We don't want to see that. A lot of the state universities are not well funded.
At all.
Some of them are owing salaries for months. We saw the case of the state university in Abia, where doctors, the medical doctors in the state hospital and the teaching hospital of that state university were being owed up to 5 months' salary. It's absolute rubbish. And one of the demands of Asuu is that the proliferation of universities, state universities, need to stop. Even if Sanwo-Olu has the money to create 1 million university, it makes no sense to do that. Take good care of the ones that you have. Fund them properly. Fund them properly. And education, even in many countries of the world, where they can afford it, it is free at all levels. And that is possible. If Awolowo did it many years ago, it's possible to make education free because many people can simply not afford it. Some parents can't even pay jam fees. So we need to take steps to deepen make the education sector better. And I think the step that they have taken is a good one. At least those universities will help us. They will become centers of excellence where we can produce quality manpower to help edify the state.
Well, that's the Lagos State University of Science and Technology and the University of Education, Lagos. So the one of science and technology that's always been there at Janiki, and it used to be NC awarding institution, and I think Lagos Polytechnic.
Yeah, I think this is coming at the time that people are complaining about proliferation of universities all over the country. We have about almost 200 universities now, 79 private universities and state universities about 48. But when you look at the case of Lagos, it's unique. The last state university was 39 years ago. For a population that is growing, for a state that is serving the West African sub-region.
Over 20 million people.
And if you look at the fact that Bayelsa has 4 universities, Ondo State has 7.
Oh.
Yes. Kano has 5 universities. Rivers has 6. That's federal government and state universities combined.
Oh.
So, and Lagos State was created in 1967. So, I think having 2 universities at this moment is a great development. Additional universities. I think Lagos deserve it. And I think if you look at also providing the human resource base for the growing industrial hub in this area, I think it's a very good development. What I think is important, like Babajide has said, is to, to fund it very well. And like the NUC said, that Asuu remains a reference point when we are talking in terms of funding of private universities. So I believe they have the resources, they have the manpower, and I think it is strategic. It's part of the strategic vision of building a mega city. So I think it's a commendable effort.
All right, joining us via Zoom for more insight on this is the special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Education, Tokunbo Wahab. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ayo.
What can you tell us about these 2 additional universities that the Lagos State University of Science and Technology and University of Education in Lagos?
Let me start by thanking the Lagos State Governor for allowing this to come to fruition. And then I will thank the House of Assembly for agreeing with the executive that this executive initiative is worth it for the sake of our Lagosians. Now, you know the background facts. 1983, the first civilian governor of the state created the only university we had before last week. That's Lagos State University. 39 years down the road, the population then was 6.7 million people in Lagos. Now, 39 years down the road, we have a university that has a limited carrying capacity because of the policy of JAM, understandably too. There's an admission process going on now in Asuu. Over 1,000 people apply to study law, and they have a limited slot of 180. So what happens to the leftover? They go back home. For medicine, they have over 1,500 apply to study medicine in Asuu. They can only admit 100. Out of the 100 slots, 10 of the slots goes to direct entry applicants. For dentistry, they can only admit 10. And for nursing, they can only admit 30. So we have seen the numbers, and they are not looking good for a population that's over 22 million. So the government said, let us find a way to impact on the space, on the ecosystem. Now we have 2 colleges of education, either the one at Ijaniki and the one in Epe, with a combined student enrollment that is less than 4,500. And annually, the subvention to both is 5.5 billion. If you do the simple arithmetic, it shows that we spend 550,000 a year to train 1 NCE undergraduates. Now, the same NCE graduates, how many of them get proper employment in the education space, where we have over 20,000 private schools in Lagos? Now, for HND holders, we all know the story of how they get them discriminated against in the system. For instance, you come into the Lagos State Civil Service, for instance, with your HND. Your peak is level 14. Whereas your contemporaries are coming with a BSc certificate or something of that from the university. They go beyond 14 to 17, and they can become PAMSECs. Meanwhile, taxpayers' money are used annually to service these institutions. So on the needs basis, on the data basis, we said, let us find a way to create more space for Lagosians, to give them options within the system. The University of Education is strictly a specialized university for those that want to study education, and there's a ready-made market in Lagos. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in the past 2.5 years, had recruited teachers. Most of them must have a background in education. And I know Teston will never recruit you if you have NCE. So for us, it's the right thing to do, and I'm glad the governor led the charge, and it was a very audacious thing to do. As for funding, in the 2022 appropriation law, there's a provision for the 2 new universities hugely, and we're already doing that to disburse funds for them, because we have till tomorrow to inform JAM and his team the programs we are starting with for the 2022-2023 academic session.
All right, we are looking at this. Are you looking at the prospect of, this the state creating more universities apart from these two?
For now, no.
Okay.
For now, no.
Okay.
Let us take time to study how these two pans out.
Okay.
Don't forget there is a structure in place. For the University of Education, they're going to start with 128 PhD holders. Those in the system already, because it's in our academic brief to NUC. And for the University of Science and Tech, they are going to start with 60 PhD holders. It's in our academic brief as we speak. So they are good to go. And this is the way it's going to operate is that we are going to have a transition period. The transition period will enable the institutions, the legacy institutions, graduate the last students. So they won't admit from this coming session, but they will graduate the last students. The admission for the coming sessions will be for university undergraduates. They're going to come into the system afresh from year one.
Now let's talk about infrastructure in those public tertiary institutions in Lagos. I understand that at last, LASU hostels are being built for the students of LASU. What other things are you people doing to improve on the infrastructure in place in these universities?
Thank you very much, Babajide. Governor Bajes Sanwo-Olu, your namesake, in less than 3 years, has commissioned the 8,272 bed space hostel for LASU.
8,000.
Also, in that same LASU, 8,272 bed space is a PPP model, and it's 50% completed now. So hopefully we're looking at the end of this year to complete it. But for COVID, we had to have commissioned in December last year. But it's understandable, it's on course. In the same LASU, there's ongoing world-class technology hub. And there's a world-class faculty of education by mobilizing contractors to site to give them a world-class faculty of education and the technology hub that will serve that ecosystem. Now, for Auto Ijaniki, where you have the main campus for the University of Education, they are building a world-class administrative building, ongoing now at Ijaniki. And for that of Ikorodu, the University of Science and Tech, there's a world-class administrative building that is going on that will be befitting of what we have just upgraded them to be, universities. Now, are we going to stop at that? No. I know for a fact also there's a 5,000 plus public-private partnership hostel going on at the Lagos State University of Science and Tech to take care of the student accommodation by this governor. We are also trying to replicate that at the Lagos State University College of Medicine at Ikeja. Now, why are we giving them these hostel accommodations? Wherever you have students, you must first of all cater for their needs. It's then a matter of to whom much is given, much is expected. And I thank the governor for doing that.
I want to thank you, Special Advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Education, Tokunbo Wahab. Thank you for your intervention. I wish you the best of luck in that sector.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, Borno State now. Nigeria is not just about war, but good governance and development in the face of crisis, as exemplified by the governor, Professor Babangana Zulum, and the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Honorable Abdul Karim Lawal. Having been in the saddle since the 9th of February 2012, Honorable Lawal is now the longest serving Speaker in Nigeria. He is celebrating his 10th anniversary as Speaker. No mean achievement. Let's share the story with you.
Right Honorable Abdul Karim Lawan became a member of the Borno State House of Assembly in 2007, representing people of Guzamala local government. He became the Speaker of the State House of Assembly following the impeachment of Honorable Goni Ali Modu. Lawan was then unanimously elected as the 11th Speaker of the House of Assembly on Thursday, the 2nd of February 2012. From February 2012 to February 2022, he's been Speaker for 10 uninterrupted years. Since he assumed the seat of the Speaker, the relationship between the legislature and executive has been cordial, according to his colleagues. They described him as a man of impeccable character and tremendous goodwill.
The leadership of Right Honorable Abdul Karim Lawan, you can't compare with other speakers. He's just humble. He carried us almost all along. And he don't take decisions alone. All the time, he consult the leadership, the other leadership, or the members in general. That's why, to be a leader of the equal, it's not an easy task. If he has not been carrying us alone or the general public alone, it's not going to be easy. Even now, the electorate or constituents will say, you have to change this, change that. They will come up with this man is not giving you the required leadership. And for sure, we have to take another action.
Abdul Karim is a very nice person that you need to work with. It is only when you come closer to him that you will know who Abdul Karim is and how he had been carrying all the members along. For the past 10 years, there was nothing like any complaint from anybody. This has clearly shown that he is a person that can be said to be truly a Democrat and carrying everybody along. We've been having a very cordial working relationship, and this is purely based on his quality or mode of his leadership.
Other members of the State House of Assembly say his simplicity, principled stance and transparency in all legislative matters in the last 10 years have changed the face of the House.
He's a kind of leader who always makes sure that the whole of the members of the Borno State House Assembly, he looks up to them as his constituency. And this kind of leadership style is very rare, and he tries to manage all the problems.
Let me thank Almighty Allah for giving us the gentleman, complete gentleman to the core as the Speaker of the Assembly. Hardly you get, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa, somebody to become Speaker and lasted on that very seat for 10 consecutive years is not easy. This is because of his good character, consideration, going along with everybody.
The man of the moment, Right Honorable Abdul Karim Lawan, appreciates the state governor Babagana Zulum, his colleagues and the people of the state for giving him the enabling environment to serve as the speaker.
They took me by surprise. Nobody told me that they were going to nominate me as a speaker. Then everybody agreed because they have already set up their mind. When we come to 2015, I never lobbied anybody. My colleagues still decided on me to continue as a speaker in 2015. When we come to 2019, still I never talked to anybody. We have achieved so much in the last 10 years in the Borno State House of Assembly. Even during the last administration, the former governor of Kashim Shettima, up to the current administration, who is Professor Babagana Umar Azrim, we are all working hand in hand to actualize the dream of the people of Borno State. So prayer is highly needed in this regard from my colleagues, from my family, from the entire people of Borno State. Prayer is the best option. So I want to thank them so much, and inshallah I'll continue to do my best to restore the confidence vested on me.
As he clocked 10 years in office, the Speaker of the Borno State House of Assembly affirms that he would continue to do his best in making the state legislature one of the best in the country. Jesse Tafida, TVC News, Maiduguri.
We say a big congratulations to Right Honorable Abdul Karim Lawan for achieving that feat, 10 years of stability, and it shows the kind of person he is.
Yes.
His leadership.
His leadership qualities are there for everyone to see. He's a young man. He was in his 30s when he became speaker, and to lead people, some of who are older than you, it's not easy. And everyone tends to see him as a good man. Look, when you look at other houses of assembly, the contest for the job of speaker is always a tough one. And they are always removing the speakers. Yes, they're always removing them. You can easily get on the wrong side of your colleagues by being too loyal to the governor. So Abdul Karim Lawan has managed to do, to stay in the middle without hurting the governor and hurting his colleagues. You know, became speaker during the time of Governor Kashim Shettima. That was the same way he managed his people. Even in his constituency is so popular that when it was time to contest the last election, the political parties said, no, we are not going to contest against this person. You know, it's just...
Other political parties?
Yes.
Just one time?
No, we don't want to contest. You know, it takes someone extremely popular for people to make up their minds that they don't want to contest against him. So, for someone that I've known clearly and is one of the greatest fans of journalist Hangout that I've ever seen. He will watch journalist Hangout, record it. If he has anything to say, he will tell me, look, this is not correct.
And I remember that his town is one of the affected towns.
Nobody is living in his local government as we speak. Nobody. His local government was amongst the two that the governor complained about recently. That's Guzamala local government and Abadam. Nobody is living in them. In the case of Abadam, in Malamfatori, at least we have soldiers. But in his local government, if you see anybody, that person must be Boko Haram. And it's been like that for years. You know? So when he first made this complaint that, look, Boko Haram are in charge of my local government, some people called him names. But now the governor has come out, even a year after, to say, look, we are not on ground here. No presence of even soldiers. So it's that bad in that place. So I wish him well, and I pray that God will give him the wisdom to continue to lead his people, lead them aright, and continue to earn the confidence that they have given him in spades.
But, you know, for the peculiar situation in Borno State, we can't afford to have a speaker that will be at loggerhead with the governor, because things are already very, very bad. The governor has his hands full, so they can't have it better than to have somebody that will cooperate with the governor, that will move the state forward.
I think good stories are coming out of Borno State. One of the most important aspects of democracy building is to have people that have spent a long time in a particular area who can share their years of experience with the upcoming ones. It's been there since 2007. You see in the US, you see people have been in the house for several years. You know, they are a kind of institution. And I think that I have followed the man, you know, for some time. One thing I notice about him is that he doesn't joke with anything that affects his members. In 2017, I think a senator was reported to have slapped a member of the House. And then, you know, they wrote a petition to the IG, and the House had to go on strike for 1 month. They said they were not going to do anything unless that problem was resolved. Even there was a time hoodlums were attacking lawmakers. You know, he took it up. They had to go on strike and all that. So, and if you remember that his predecessor was removed because he was subservient to the governor, the House wanted somebody who would at least be able to balance the two contending interests. Yes. And when you are talking about the Boko Haram issue, when the former chief of army staff said no local government was being occupied by Boko Haram, and also the Minister of Information re-echoed the same thing, he came out, even though they are in the same party, to say no, this my local government have not been able to go for several months. So such a person is a very righteous and upright person. And you know, most of these people are always over-ambitious. When you are speaker for 4 years, the next you want to go to House of Rep, you want to go to Senate. But for somebody to have remained 2007 at the same level with House of Assembly, I think this shows a lot. It's a very good example that I think, you know, is worth emulating. I really commend him, and I wish him the best of luck.
We say congratulations again to Right Honorable Abdul Karim Lawan for that feat, 10 years anniversary as the Speaker of Borno State House of Assembly.
And he used to be even the Speaker of Speakers of our country.
Okay, okay. If you have spent that kind of time.
It was from him that the Lagos speaker took over.
Okay. Yes. I think the Lagos speaker too has.
Yes, he's handed it over to someone else now.
Okay. As the fourth estate of the realm, the media deserves some respect and latitude to flourish. So, threats to lives of some media men as residents in journalist estate Arikbo, Ogun State is condemnable. The Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, in Lagos State has condemned the alleged attacks on residents of the estate by Residents Association acting on the order of the Olu of Arikbo Oba Atonda Oyebi. The chairman of Lagos NUJ, Adile Ajayi, called on Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun to intervene in the crisis to avoid loss of lives. Jide, what is this about? That's Arikbo Estates.
Yes.
I thought normally it was meant to be an exclusive estate for journalists. Now the community is now growing up, and you see a lot of buildings and outsiders coming there. Now they now have the Olu of I don't know if there had been some issues before now.
Okay. But the journalists constructed an ark at their gate, and the next thing, the traditional ruler, accompanied by his chiefs and other people, went to the place to damage the ark that was constructed by the journalists, on the excuse that they did not take permission from the Oba, Olu of Arikpo before construction. But what these journalists are saying is that beyond that they probably wanted to be paid some amount of money.
That is the normal practice, I can tell you.
Well, if it's normal, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it legal.
They call themselves Omonile.
But it's not. Lagos State has even banned
for your foundation.
Lagos has banned that.
If you want to do decking.
Ayo, let's not.
No. Lagos has banned that. They are normally on ground.
I know that Lagos has banned, but they are still around. There are ways to go about this thing. It's not by visiting destruction on what people have spent money to construct that you can drive home your point that our palms need to be greased.
Honestly,
if there is mutual respect and understanding, it is not until you resort to violence before somebody says, Kabiesi, you understand that this is what we have come to give you. We are all your children. And if we are doing well here and we are at peace here, it is our joy to say,
to bring development.
We are giving you this. But don't go and start. It's ridiculous to be destroying an ark that they use money to build. And these are journalists. Harassing journalists for any reason is unacceptable. Today, if you do something, you write something about a politician, the next thing he thinks he needs to do is to send his talks to harass you. What's the meaning of that? So it is not your right to collect that money. No, there's nowhere, no law that says that.
With development, you don't even.
There's no law that says they must give you. There has to be that understanding. And if they don't give you, you now think that that's an act of disrespect. You now send people to go and destroy. That's impunity. And traditional rulers must realize that they are civil servants. They are responsible to the government.
Local governments.
They are responsible. You are a local government staff. Even if you are emir of Kano, emir of anywhere, you are a local government staff. That's the way it is.
Not the local government.
So trying to force people to give you no. I mean, it's a no.
Well,
except if that's not only what happened.
Some individuals will want to clear the road and make it nice. But this set of people will come, they will say, until you give them something, before you use your money,
There's no responsible society should tolerate this kind of gangsterism, from any quarter. Because if you want your community to develop, then you must realize that those that are coming to develop that place, they need to have some sense of confidence in you as the traditional ruler of that place. And there should be some kind of peace before anybody can come to your community to live there or to build any industry there. I believe the traditional ruler is occupying a very sensitive position, and that much is expected of him. He is a custodian of the finest values, supposed to be the custodian of finest values of our tradition. So I hope what they are saying about him is not correct, but if it's correct, then it's shocking. Because having journalists living in your community is mutual benefit to you. The journalists are expected to promote whatever, the interests of your community. So I expect him to do everything possible to make peace with them and see them as his own children. So I believe he will not allow it to get out of hand, because that place has been there since 2003. I know that journalists are very poor, no pensions, so people go to that place from the sweat of their labor to build their houses there. So if you don't just come and start giving them unnecessary tension, I think it's not right. And I hope he will do the right thing to call his chiefs together so that they can negotiate with the journalists and resolve
at least before the governor.
Yes, we even call on the governor Dapo Abiodun to just look into it, and the Olu of Arepo Oba Atonda will be to just pipe down a little bit, and they can't just have their way every other time. All right, moving on now. Barring last-minute intervention, the university system in Nigeria may be thrown into another intractable industrial action. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, Asuu, has stepped up nationwide mobilization of its members of a fresh strike over refusal of the federal government to implement the agreement it signed with the union. But the Middle Belt Movement for Justice and Peace said the federal government must avert another strike by Asuu. In a statement by its convener, Joe Buka, the group cautioned that another strike could spell danger in the country. Let's share the story of the mobilization by Lagos Zone of Asuu by TVC News' Sharon Ijason with you.
Several hours of consultation and Congress meeting by the Lagos State Zone of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, we can say that mobilization is in top gear to ensure that the protest, if called upon, would be a success. Members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities commenced a protest within the compound of the University of Lagos.
Victoria! Victoria!
Let us know if they have any problem about any part of that agreement signed. And if there are issues, we will sit down on the round table and resolve those issues. But as we speak, the federal government has refused, has neglected, and has adamantly done nothing to actually ensure that that renegotiation is signed and implemented. And when we talk about renegotiation, what are we talking about? Yeah, you have always been hearing about revitalization, and yeah, is part of it. It's part of the funding of the university. But there is a core component that has often been neglected by the government.
The chairman of the University of Lagos Academic Staff Union of Universities, Dele Ashiru, spoke on the refusal of the federal government to sign and implement the renegotiated 2009 Asuu FGN agreement. According to him, it's meant to be reviewed every 3 years.
Agitation for the conclusion of the renegotiation of the 2009 Asuu FGN agreement, which had been concluded since May. Today's Congress is a Congress to tell our members that the clarion call can be made anytime.
For aggrieved members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, they are of the opinion that they might have no other option than to embark on an industrial action if the federal government and relevant authorities refuse to yield to their demands. Sharon Ijason, TVC News, Lagos.
Today, we are back at that point again, because it's still the same issue.
Yes.
Nothing is new. A month ago, we still had this situation, and we were thinking that the federal government would find time to sit down with these people and we iron this out. Now, once they go out to start mobilizing, it's not good for the country's academic timetable. And this is the beginning of a new year. And if, as we say, we are mobilizing for another strike, in 2020, the better part of 2020, they were on strike.
Not less than 6 months. And remember, there was even COVID. COVID kept students at home. So these students they are going to lose more than a year in the final analysis.
Again, because
yes, when you bear in mind the length of time that COVID didn't allow people to go to school, so it's just unfortunate. But the government has a responsibility to honor his word. A man of honor honors his word. If you got into some form of agreement with Asuu, we are not even talking about 2009 now. There was an MOA signed that led to the strike being suspended in the first place. What conditions have been met in that memorandum of agreement? What has government done to show that it is indeed serious about ensuring that Asuu does not go on strike anymore? What we are seeing is an attempt to make it impossible for some labor unions to go on strike. They are trying to come up with a law to say, look, you doctors, you can't go on strike anymore. Perhaps Asuu will be put in the mix. I mean, academic workers will be put in the mix. Perhaps. But there are subsisting issues. What are those subsisting issues? Asuu says, look, of all our demands, we are prepared to not go on strike if you meet just two of those conditions. That's the issue of the renegotiation of the wages of academic staff, and of course the issue of IPPIS. They have come up with UTAS. You told them to find an alternative. They found an alternative. The alternative was put to test. Its success was validated, but you are refusing to disenroll academic staff from IPPIS, despite all of the problems that people have talked about as they affect the IPPIS. So why do you get into agreements with people, agreements that you know that you are not prepared to meet? That was the same thing that the Senate president was saying to them. He said, look, why did you, if you knew you couldn't meet this demand, why did you get into it with these people? Because, look, what have you done? Was it simply to get them to quickly end the strike? I mean, ending the strike has consequences, have implications. It has implications. What are the implications? The one that is particularly perplexing, even among these two demands, the one that Asuu is particularly bothered about is that renegotiation. They've been on the same salary since 2009.
I don't know how
and
Nigeria today,
a ranking professor, a professor of not less than 10 years standing, is unable to earn beyond 418,000 naira a month.
It's very ridiculous.
So now the same government said, okay, Musalin Jibrin, we nominate you, go and negotiate with Asuu. Musalin Jibrin used to be the executive secretary of NUC. Now Musalin Jibrin negotiated with them. His report is ready, but no one is taking action on the report. So why did you set up a panel
When you know you're not going to
when you knew that you would do that, whatever the panel comes up with, you are not going to do anything about it. You've wasted people's time. You wasted them. So they are saying, look, let's go back to that issue. Even now, what academic staff earn with the coming of IPPIS is lower than what they used to earn before the coming of IPPIS. So there are issues. We don't need to talk about the peculiar nature of the academic environment, because we've overflowed that issue. That look, you cannot, for example, the way the IPPIS works, you are a staff of one university. That's where you are recognized. So the issue of people being on sabbatical, being visiting professors, as it is in the academic world, you cannot do it under the IPPIS regime. They have said that they should be more, they need something that is more flexible. Because a lot of our professors, the best of them, some of them who have won the National Merit Award, are products of training abroad, are products of sabbatical abroad, are products of residency abroad. So we can't reinvent the wheel. We can't change the way the academic environment works just because we want to make sure that everybody there is enrolled on IPPIS.
When you look at the face of this struggle, you discover that if the federal government had been sincere from the onset, they would have been handling it one by one and sorting this issue. Since 2009, we allow it to fester, and this thing, okay, the one that Gidi just said, if a professor is earning 418,000, look at inflation in 2009, come and look at inflation, double digits now in 2022, and that salary is still, you go to the market with it, you just discover that
it's a very unfortunate thing. The MOU of 2009 has passed through a lot of renegotiation. 2013, 2017, but yet the government refuses to meet its own aspect of the bargain. And you cannot beat a child and tell the child not to cry. You have not been able to meet their conditions, even minimally, and you are saying they should not go on strike. And it's very unfortunate that a lot of people have this misconception that the demands of Asuu is personal. It's not personal. They are partners in progress. They are talking about the future of our industry. They are talking about the future of our children. They are talking about education in order to be able to prevent violence, in order to be able to take people away from ritual killings, in order to be able to develop the potentials inherent in every human being, in order to be able to open up opportunities for our children to grow, so that Nigeria can meet up in the Committee of Nations. So all their demands are not personal. They are for the well-being and the progress of Nigeria. So I'm quite surprised that I listened to the Minister of Labour, and it's like when he talks, like, he personalizes the whole thing. It's not fair. It gets emotional. It gets emotional that, as if they want to take your job from you. But you have to listen to the demands being. They are talking about funding of universities. Go to even the first generation universities. Compare them with what you see in Ghana of today. Whereas some years back, people will come all the way from India to attend universities in Nigeria.
Ghana.
They come from Ghana. They come from, now people are taking their children to Togo. They are taking their children to Rwanda.
Yes.
And we claim to be the biggest, most progressive country in West Africa.
When we were talking about this medical tourism, was it not you or someone who said, how about educational tourism that is greater than medical tourism? Yes. We now send people to go to school in Malaysia, go to school in Egypt. Countries that we were the same. Yes. Now sometimes they even waste our people. They kill them there. They kill our people. Look at the boy who just died in Ukraine. Remember the one that was it not Ukraine? So people can't even, and it's because the state, because of the state of public universities
in the education sector in Nigeria. So people will go to Togo, francophone countries, and when you get to that Togo, You will meet Nigerian teachers.
Yeah, teaching there.
The Nigerian teachers, yes, our teachers from our products.
It's not good at all. We just need to listen to them. We just need to look at between 2016 and 2021. We budget 53.3 trillion. Only 3.5 trillion was released. So even when the budget, we can't even meet up. So if you don't develop the educational sector, then it's a big problem.
All right. Anyways, I think we need to still shed light on the issue of whether Asuu is doing this for itself or doing it for everyone.
Yes, let's look at demands one by one.
No, even the particular demand that shows clearly that Asuu is not doing this for itself alone is funding the sector to freshen up infrastructure in that sector. And what has government done? They released 20 billion. How far can 20 billion go?
All the federal universities, all the...
Did you see the video of the hostel of UNN?
Yes. Yeah, I saw it.
That's a school that has produced world-class. Now, look at it's like a pigsty. And it's a common thing. I don't think that we can actually say, it's a UNN that is like that. Other public universities too are not
kind of neglect.
They need to build more lecture theaters. They need to build more lecture theaters and all that.
Expand the infrastructure.
I was in Lokoja. You saw the story that I did for the Federal University of Lokoja. There's no road, no third road within the academic environment. No third road. Funding is not really there. If not for UNILAG, for example, if not for the alumni and the other donor agencies that are assisting, you see the kind of money that the current VC has been able to bring in. Honestly, the school will be a shadow of itself. But new universities that do not have the kind of name that UNILAG has, they won't be able to attract such donations that will help to freshen up infrastructure over there. And they are saying, look, commit to releasing money for infrastructure. We see pictures of these students sitting on the floor, receiving instruction on the floor in a university environment. Some of them sitting on the windows. The window panes are gone, so they sit on the window to receive lectures. And you don't want people to talk about it. These guys are saying, release money so that constantly infrastructure can improve. That cannot be a bad suggestion to make to government. It's not something so bad to look forward to.
Maintenance culture in place.
Yes. They said, okay, let's have visiting partners for these universities. We didn't even think of that until the UNILAG problem came. And we saw clearly that when the UNILAG problem came and the visiting panel went there, they were able to resolve the issue. Most of the universities, you didn't set up visiting panels for them.
Which is compulsory.
So what is wrong in Asuu making that suggestion? But whenever Asuu wants to go on strike on anything, we think it's just about the salary. We think it's just about the money. All of the people now who do not want to do something about Asuu's demands, they are products of public universities. Their own parents were not so rich as to send them abroad. And many of them in the National Assembly now, many of them the ministers now, and many of them didn't go to public universities. Are we too not products of public universities? But things have degenerated, and it's a massive concern. We've seen people go to their former schools and they broke down in tears.
Okay, we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back after this time out. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. If you are just joining us, you are right on time. This is Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and we're still looking at the problem between Asuu and the federal government, and Asuu, as usual, giving another notice that any moment from now that they are going to embark on yet another round of strike. Babajide, now when you are looking at the steady decadence and the population expansion, it's as if the federal government did not project that we're going to have a situation like this. Now we have private university that's very expensive, not affordable to an ordinary man on the streets. We have state universities that are equally expensive
as well.
So the succor for that common man that you can say you cannot pay 100,000 naira per session is a federal university across the states, across the country. So if they're not making this accessible, if they don't have the necessary infrastructure, if they don't have the necessary facility,
fingers are not equal. Our fingers are not equal
at all.
Not everyone can afford a private university
at all.
As I said earlier, a lot of the people grandstanding and calling Asuu names, their own parents too couldn't afford universities outside of our country, because at that time we didn't have private universities
at all.
But they couldn't afford to send children, send their children outside Nigeria. Yes. And we used to also have study leaves that government will bankroll for people to go and do their masters. Those things are not common now. Those things are not scholarship. If you go and study abroad, they are not common now because of the state of the economy and all that. So what government can do is not to simply ignore these demands. Look at the demands. See how you can do. If they had incrementally been addressing those demands one at a time, by now we won't have this problem. For example, look at how long it took before they decided to release that 20 billion for infrastructure in the universities. And you and I know that it's like a drop in the ocean. You are owing academic staff allowances. You will wait until they go on strike before you pay their end allowances and all that. So we have found ourselves in a very, very nasty situation, but it's not irredeemable. Look at the federal universities, come up with funding to improve infrastructure, build more lecture theaters. Yes, TED Fund is trying its best, but even TED Fund itself is limited in terms of the funding at its disposal, and the demands are huge because we have new federal universities. Every time they are approving building of new universities, federal universities and all that. So all of this require funding.
Okay, we have Mohammed from Jigawa. Thank you for joining us, Mohammed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mohammed. This line is not clear. I think you have to call back, Mohammed.
Call back.
We can't hear you at all. Just try to call back. And we don't project. We are not ready. This same thing is happening in the health sector.
The university is the bedrock of the industrial takeoff of any country. When you are talking about science, you are talking of art, you are talking of industry, you are talking of technology. Most of the great things you see that we sell in the market and all that, they are products of research in universities. So if Asuu is saying that for the universities, it's going to have chain impact on our industrial growth, on job creation, on the, a lot of small-scale industry and all sort of things, So, but when there is no funding for the university sector, there's no way you can be talking about industrial growth. Look at the greatest nation that spent so much money on education: Norway, New Zealand, UK, US. They pump a lot of money into education because they know that that is the future of the country. Even when you are talking about research in military institutions, you still need academic base. We want to produce fighter jets, we want to produce the naval equipment and all that. It is the university system that will provide the research base for you to be able to achieve all these things. So we can't just neglect this very, very important industry. And that's why many of us are with Asuu. And we hope government will listen to them. It's for the benefit of the government itself.
Life itself is not too fair. you know, when we have lawmakers that you are saying that they can enter their position with secondary school certificates and everything, even some executive posts and everything. These people invest a minimum of 25, 30 years and to try to become professors. Look at what they're earning.
Yes. Yes, it's unfortunate. How many people will agree to be on the same salary for more than 10 years? Because that's what we are seeing. That's what we are seeing. It's more than 10 years already. 2009 to this time. People think that the Asuu guys are just greedy people. They don't think about all these things. If we allow the federal universities, the public universities to collapse, which in my view is the wish of some fat cats, if we allow them to collapse, where do we go? Even the private universities that are collecting extortionate school fees from people, they are not enough.
Yeah. At all.
They are not enough.
They can't cater
the
for.
only way we can, the universities are not
right
enough.
now, 2 million people sit for JAM.
Yes.
At a stretch. 2 million.
So, despite the fact that there are more universities are coming,
yes,
they still not
how do you want to
enough.
accommodate even 1 million?
If we allow the federal, the public universities to collapse, whether they are state universities or even federal universities, we will be in trouble. Where would the people who have not got the kind of money that those private universities are asking for, where will they send their children?
I have Simon is calling us from Aba. Thank you for staying with us, Samuel.
Hello, it's me, Simon.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, please, I thank you for your journalist hangout. I greet everybody in the studio.
Yeah, thanks.
And my mom, Mr. Jide, and you.
Go ahead,
so
Simon.
what I want to ask TVC, I want to ask them something for TVC to come to Aba for this geometric in Aba. So I want Jide, especially Jide, to come to Aba and tell the world what is happening in geometric.
Okay. Which one is? Which one is geometric?
I'm begging Jide and TVC.
I they hear you. So okay, which one be geometric now?
Geometric, the power plant of Barcelona.
Okay.
We don't know what's holding it. I don't know, but it is still Jide will tell Nigeria and the world what is happening there.
You are not going to give me a hint. You are not going to give me a spook first.
Please.
Okay.
Please, I'm begging you.
So we'll find time to come to Aba. I hope Aba is cleaner now. I hope Aba is cleaner now in terms of refuse and all.
No, you have no problem with security. As far as Jide is concerned, no problem.
I said, is it cleaner now in terms of refuse and all that?
It's very clean. As far as Jide is concerned, you are not have no problem.
Okay. You refuse to answer.
Thank you, Simon. My producer is just informing me that I think Simon is urging us to come and establish a terrestrial station in Aba.
No, but specifically mentioned Batu Naji's power plant.
Okay.
Maybe they have an issue there.
So ultimately, when we look at it, we just pray that the federal government will be able to sit down with Asuu and try and.
I hope by Monday, because the rate is going. You know, those traditional rulers and clerics met with Asuu and stopped this the strike in December or so.
Yeah.
Now, though they promised, the Sultan promised that he will reach out to the government, that they should leave it to him. He will reach out to them and ensure that there is no strike. Up till now, they are yet to get back to Asuu to say, okay, we met the president or we met the Minister of Labor. This is what they told us. No feedback. That's why if they had succeeded in reaching the government, at least those clerics would have gone back to Asuu to say, okay, they've assured us that they will deal with the issues that you people have come up with. But there's no feedback. It looks like disrespect.
All right. Moving on now. The framers of our constitution saw the need for getting government closer to the grassroots, hence local government councils there is council election fever in Enugu State, and the governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi is not taking it lightly. Governor Ugwuanyi continues to lead the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to campaign for votes in February 23 local government elections in the states and markets in various communities. Let's share the story with you.
Political analysts say modern federalism is a political system that is based upon democratic rules and institutions in which power to govern is shared between the federal and local government areas. With the local government being the third tier, it is expected to be the closest to the grassroots. Some of the local government areas are rather far than nearer to the masses. The people at the grassroots level are the ones that suffer the most, as they hardly know what goes on at their council in terms of programs and projects that benefit them. It is on record that the history of local government administration in Nigeria predated 1946, before Nigeria returned to self-governance in 1960. But many decades down the line, there are little or nothing to show for its establishment. Local government administration faced many challenges since inception in Nigeria. Available survey indicate that development gets to the grassroots faster when there is functional local government system in Nigeria. There are 768 local government areas and 6 area councils at the Federal Capital Territory. This arrangement was meant to ensure service delivery to the people. Now, in the southeast region of Nigeria that comprises of Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu and Imo State, local government elections are rarely conducted. But since inception of Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi's administration in 2015, he made it a priority to conduct local government elections in the state. Recent survey conducted by independent bodies attribute the relative peace enjoyed in Enugu to the activation of local government system in the state. The report further indicates that consistent conduct of local government election in the state put its unemployment level as the lowest in the country.
It is commendable. I tell you the simple truth. For the very first time, like I did mention, people are having that feel, and I must commend the governor of Enugu State, for allowing that to happen under him. Because if the process was already completed, there won't be need for his own self, even as the leader of the PDP, to find himself in all of the campaign platforms.
To sustain this, Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi at a campaign rally in Ishuzo charged the People's Democratic Party LG candidate in the February 23rd local government elections to ensure they relocate fully to the grassroots if elected. Again, the state governor says he is ready to conduct another local government election into 260 wards and 17 local government areas. The governor recently flagged off the campaign at Umuaram Central School, Nkem, Ishuzo, with the mandate that all council officials must operate from their different council areas.
I must definitely tell you that our administration is keen on activating the local economy of our rural communities. Therefore, it has become a directive principle that all elected council chairmen and councillors must reside in their electoral constituencies henceforth. By so doing, they will necessarily work to secure their constituencies, being residents, and also activate their local economies.
His campaign train moved to Nkanu East and West, where he had a stop at Ekiotu and the Kaibani market to canvass for votes. Former Governor Chimaroke Namani was on ground to receive the governor at their central headquarters of Nkanu land, with thousands of party faithful in attendance.
Even at the crowd in the testimony to the irrefragable fact that you did well as the governor of Enugu State. And you are still doing well because your term has not ended. And it will not end without history. The history is that you are the man who provided peace in Enugu State.
And we are here to celebrate somebody that his peaceful establishment of an environment where people can walk and express themselves and emerge has resulted in one of our own being the candidate for the local government election in Nkanu West.
He has given us rest. He has given us prosperity. He has given us understanding. He has given us an atmosphere where all of us live together and enjoy together. No political tension.
Governor Ugwuanyi has made it a duty to campaign vigorously, even though the PDP has remained a party in charge since the inception of democracy from 1999 in Enugu State. At Udi, Oji River, Aniri, and Ogo, the reception given to the campaign trail shows that the local government administration is truly the way to go. Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi's insistence of conducting LG polls has recently received boosts by stakeholders in the state who attributed the peaceful atmosphere residents witness in the state to the constant running of local government administration in the state. Bamidele Ajayi, TVC News, Enugu.
I wonder why Governor Ugwuanyi is going around town for a local government election. Because I thought it's any party in charge that has been the standard. Why is he extending his energy to go around?
Maybe he just doesn't want to take chances. He wants his party to remain strong. You can say that Enugu State is a one-party state. You know, since the time of Ebiano as governor, no party has been able to dislodge them.
That's Senator Chimarukin.
No party has been able to dislodge them. But that doesn't mean that you have to be laid back. Politics everywhere is local. And if you do not have the grassroots base, then your days are numbered. So he's not prepared to take chances. And you saw too that even for the municipal election in Abuja, that governors, not just one governor, governors joined the APC campaign train. Yes, you see governors on the podium, ministers, you know, so and the INEC was also involved, INEC organized the election. So it means that gradually the local government is regaining its pride of place. A time will come, especially when we can do credible elections at local government level. People will take the local government elections seriously, because once you lose the local government, for example, your capacity to mobilize for the bigger elections will definitely be eroded. We've got to give credit to governors who are allowing local government elections to take place and not simply appointing caretakers, sole administrators and all that. So Governor Ugwuanyi stands out among the governors who consistently allow local government elections to take place. Across, his brother in Anambra did not deem it fit to organize a local government election. People complain and complain, but the governor stubbornly refused to let local government election take place. But here is someone in Enugu allowing the local government election to take place and even going to campaign in markets and communities as a way of helping the election to gain momentum. So it's such a good thing, especially also his admonition that those who win the local government must relocate to their communities and work there. I know that in many cases, local government chairmen simply stay in the state capital. It is on payday that you see some of even their own workers too. They don't sit down in the local government to work. So,
is there any threat to the dominance of the People's Democratic Party in this particular state?
I have, maybe there are threats, but I think those threats are not pronounced. They are not strong enough to be able to threaten the dominion of PDP in Enugu State. And you can see what the governor is doing. Local government election is going from one local government to the other, talking to people. No matter what anybody says, this will deepen his stronghold in the grassroots. It's going to strengthen his influence. He is also building the capacity to win the next elections, both the presidential election and also the governorship election, because it's giving the opportunity to local people for him to see him is a kind of inclusion in the political process. So, and I hope if anybody wants to take over from this kind of government, you have to start from the grassroots. So I think what he's doing is right, and there's no way that he's not going to be ahead of his opponents in that state if he continues to take local government election very serious.
No, it's like testing one's popularity.
Yeah.
So the reception you get will show the people that yes, you are indeed, you are still on ground. Governor Ogwanyi wants the world to know that look, he's not afraid to interface with his people, with the grassroots, and he's been doing that, going around to mobilize, to galvanize the people for the election, and the reception is good. So that would tell the governor that look, our party is still strong in this state. One of the reasons which is important to go to the grassroots is you get that feedback directly. You know, you will be able to know what the people want in that particular locality. Like you've gone into the market now, if there are issues like bad drains and all that, he gets to see those things directly by himself, not that people will come and tell him. So, and he will then know the scale of the problem, the extent of the problem, and look for a way to make money available to solve the problem. So I am happy to see people take local government election seriously. Look and see, it's like a carnival setting. This is the way our elections, our campaigns should be. Not firing at people, not beating people up, not stopping people from campaigning. As we saw before the Bayelsa election, some people went to campaign, especially in the riverine areas, and they were murdered. They were killed on the eve of the election. But look at campaign taking place. There's no threat of any sort, you know, by way of violence and all that. So it's something to be happy about, and we look forward to the election itself being free and fair and devoid of violence of any kind.
And then at the end of the day, a lot of people, they expect more from this local government because it's the closest tier of government to the people. And then they feel that if this local government, if they're functional, effective, our expectations from the federal government and the state government will be minimal.
Yeah, local governments is the first point of call for community dwellers. And that is why if we are able to create conducive environment in local communities, we are going to have less population in urban centers. You know, more people would prefer to live in their communities. Good roads, access to water, access to security. So why should everybody want to come and live in Lagos? So local governments are very, very important. And I think if each government takes local government very serious, it's really going to help in several areas of human development.
And that's why, during the Osun 30 celebrations, we are looking at the state as a whole, and I said there is no state in Nigeria with as many urban centers as Osun State. The closest that I've seen is Katsina. You know, Osun has a lot of them, and what government needs to do is to improve on infrastructure even in those urban centers, so that people you can actually live in Ede and work in Osogbo. You know, if those roads, Elisha and the rest of it, you need to connect them with good roads so that you can decongest the state capital, decongest the state capital. Yes, we have more urban centers than any state in our country, even in Laorogun, you know. So this is the thing, Ikirun. So they need to now build good roads, let that interconnectivity happen. You know, and look, many people, if they have their way, they will prefer to live in Ibadan and work here in Lagos.
Yeah.
You can imagine if you put that high-speed train, the type that my namesake is bringing in for Lagos. If you put it on that road, that's if you put it on Lagos Ibadan, many people will prefer to live in Ibadan rather than work in Lagos.
Honestly.
Because Lagos is congested and the rat race life in Lagos, many people don't like it. People don't like it.
I have Cyril calling us from Uma here. I think Abia people today, they're on fire. Thank you, Cyril.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Good afternoon, Cyril.
Yes. Okay. Please, I want to contribute concerning the LG election.
Okay. In Enugu.
In Enugu State.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. You know, you asked earlier whether if there's a threat to
Yes.
PDP. Yeah, actually, there's a threat, but the threat is within the PDP. You know, the Nigerian elections is coming up, and the big guys like that of Senator Ike is rolling up.
Okay.
And you know, based on the zoning arrangements, the governor is looking for the Enugu East.
Okay.
While the people of Enugu West, where Ike comes from, they are seriously eyeing the seat. So if you watch during the campaign, the governor moved to Anieri, which is the local government of Ike.
Yes.
This election you are seeing just for them to mobilize. You know, when you lose the grassroots, you have lost it all. So
Yes.
thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Cyril, for that this illumination. And this, Jesus said it earlier. So he's telling us that it's an intra-party thing.
That's the only, but somehow they always find a way to resolve these issues. It's going to take a massive effort to defeat the PDP in Enugu. It's a one-party state.
Has never been a contention.
It's a one-party.
Even
It's just like going to
Ayogo went to APC.
If he goes to APC, he will return
back to the PDP.
Well, I may not. What I wanted to say is, if he goes there, he will not win. If he goes there, he will not win. So that's the. It's like that. It's just like Borno State now. Somebody thinking that he can dislodge the APC in Borno or Yobe. How are you going to do it? It's not going to happen. It's only when elections are approaching. That is when we start seeing posters of some of these parties. They call them Abuja politicians. They don't show up. They have no presence in Borno State. But when elections are approaching, you then see them. They will be doing posters. That's where it ends. They can't win. They can't win because the people there have made up their minds that come rain, come shine, it is the APC that they will vote for. And it's like that too in some states of the South and some states of the Southeast. Nobody will be able to dislodge the
if you leave the party,
the
you will go and come back.
You will come back. If you don't come back, there's nothing for you. You know?
And finally, there are always the military and political angles to any war. While the Nigerian military has waged war against insurgency in the northeast for a decade with no end yet, the war-weary governor of the state's most hit, that's Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, is calling for political solution. Speaking after a visit to the presidential villa, Abuja, Governor Zulum said, with recent military onslaught and the massive surrender by terrorists, a political solution is now required to end the insurgency by 2023. Echoing this is the commander of the U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, that's General Stephen Townsend, who said military forces alone cannot defeat violent extremism, but the use of a 3D approach, namely diplomacy, development, defense, and discussion. Wow, Jide. Yeah. Let's start from Governor Zulum. In the light of those people that came back and surrendered, and Governor Zulum is now saying that a political solution is required. That, look, from what they've seen so far, that they cannot achieve peace there with 100% military tactics.
I agree, and I think it's important for us to vary the choices available to us. I always give the example of Colombia. After more than 40 years of war, the current government there now is sitting with the FARC rebels, and thankfully, the scale of killings have gone down tremendously. Even the killings that are still happening now are the result of division within even the rebels themselves. So the way people used to be killed in Colombia has gone down because they can see now that government is engaging the rebels. This is what the governor is suggesting. And look, there was an argument on Facebook. There are certain things that you can't say on Facebook, even if you have privileged information. I know that we have been making moves through informal channels to reach some of the Boko Haram fighters, get them to lay down their arms. This has been on for a long time. But people say, no, we are not negotiating. No, we are not talking. If we did not engage Boko Haram, even the first set of Chibok girls that were released to us would never have been released. At some point, you have to negotiate through third party. You may not negotiate directly. And a country, the Red Cross and the Swiss government, for example, they've helped Nigeria in the past to reach out to Boko Haram elements and talk to them. This governor is saying, look, let me quote him, so that those who think that, oh, we are not talking to Boko Haram will know that it's not entirely true. We have decided to engage them through dialogue and mediation with a view to ensuring that many of them lay down their arms. So far, so good. The objective has started yielding positive results. Things are going well. You know, people are being relocated. So the point that is making is through informal channels, you reach some of these people and tell them, look, this war is needless. You can't win this war. The best thing, lay down your arms. There are, within ISWAP, for example, at least in the Damboa area, we were able to get some of their men and their families to lay down their arms. That was the first time, because ISWAP will kill anybody who tries to run away. So it's been difficult for us to get people from ISWAP to surrender. But we are seeing signs in the last 2 weeks, for example. We are seeing that even ISWAP people are beginning to surrender. And in the Damboa area, some of them came out. You know, that Damboa area is around that area that we have the Timbuktu Triangle, which they have held on to vigorously for long. You know, it's one of their strong bases. So the governor has said this is what they are doing. I encourage them to continue to engage these people. It's not all wars that you win by military means. Even America, after many years, offered to dialogue with Taliban. America won every phase of that war, but you can win the war and still not have peace. You understand? You can win the war and still not have peace. That is where negotiation and dialogue is necessary. And even at the level of AFRICOM, these are Shekau's people, you know, surrendering.
After they killed, after Shekau was killed.
Yes, these are his own people surrendering. Now, even AFRICOM is saying, look, what we want to do is to stop the spread of these guys. Because conflict began in Mali, it has spread to Burkina Faso, it has spread to Niger Republic, and some elements from Niger Republic are coming into our country. So AFRICOM now believes that, look, the best thing to do is to stop their spread, not simply to say you want to exterminate them. You know, which is a way of admitting that, look, sometimes this military contain them, come up with a containment strategy, and don't think that, look, you can simply flush them away, because that's not happening.
Let's look at the option of this general, that's diplomacy, development, and defense. What is this suggesting?
It's very easy to.
That's General Stephen Townsend.
It's very easy to kill human beings, but it's more difficult to kill the ideas that they stand for. And I think when we are talking about extremism, we need to understand that there are things that propel people into taking extreme measures. If you look at the demography all over the world, we have extremism is very common in very poor countries. If you look at Nigeria, for instance, the Northwest has the highest rate of poverty. It has one of the highest in terms of fertility rate. You have women, children, 14, 15 years, who give birth. A woman in Northeast, for instance, could give birth up to 7, 8 children. And these children mostly don't have access to education. They don't have access to economic incentives. So are most likely may even end up as orphans. Now, you also look at, in terms of employment, look at Lake Chad, for instance, where people have access to fish and all that. In the past 60 years, it has shrunk from about 26,000 kilometers to about 1,500 in 60 years. It means a lot of people have been displaced. No access to fishing, no access to economic sustainability. So when they now find organizations that give them weapons as a way to survive, it's just normal that they will join. So I think Professor Zulum has a good grasp of the issue. If you look at what he has been doing, building schools in Maiduguri alone, 76 primary schools were remodeled. He's building mega schools, and if you see those schools, they are of global standard. That's why there have been threats on his life. Almost 2 or 3 times they had wanted to kill him because he's providing alternatives. Without necessarily carrying guns.
What education will do to
the terrorists? Look, the people, there's an alternative for you. Come and have access to education. Come and have access to jobs, free education, and all that. So you see, a lot of people are leaving the bushes in order to come and to join the new programs. And that's why when we are talking about having meetings, on resolving terrorism, it's not just about defense ministers. The finance ministry needs to be represented. The education, sector needs to be represented. So it's not just about weapons. We also need to deal with the root cause of terrorism. And I think I agree with him that, we need to look at diplomacy, development, and defense, not just about military hardware all the time.
And all of those, all of the insurgencies that we have seen across the world begin with local grievances. Local grievances unresolved. Sometimes you treat people with levity, you let those problems remain. At the end of the day, those people become violent in achieving their aims. And when this happens, we have more refugees, we have food shortages, we have human cost, that's loss of lives. So there has to be constant re-evaluation of the situation, and then coming up with the right strategy. A strategy may work somewhere and not work elsewhere. Military approach, for example, failed in the Niger Delta area because that's not a place where you can be dropping bombs anyhow. Because of the topography. All infrastructure assets that we have in the area. So military approach failed. In the end, we had to engage the militants so for them to stop hemorrhaging, destroying our capacity to export crude oil. We had to, at a point, they brought our output down to around 500,000 a day. When we saw that this is a threat to the well-being of the nation, we had to engage them. The former Minister of State for Petroleum, Kachiku, the Vice President, and other people, we had to engage them. We made peace with them, and today our oil output at least is between 1.8 to 2 million a day.
Okay, Oladoye is calling us from Kaduna State. Thank you for staying with us.
Good afternoon. This is Oladoye from Kaduna.
All right, where in Kaduna?
I'm calling from Trikania.
Trikania,
okay.
Densely populated. Yes, sir.
Well done, sir.
Asuu.
All right, please, all of you at the studio there.
Thank you, Pastor Ladui.
Yeah, happy Sunday.
I want to just pass to this local government of the thing. The president tried to use the executive order to sort of, autonomy from local government to judiciary and all these things. It will not work. I think they still need a clarification or legislative, clear legislative backing for local government to thrive in Nigeria in the way that the way we conduct state elections, and that with legislative backing that there shouldn't be any vacuum. If any state government is going, another one should be elected. I don't think there's any clear legislative backing to mandate states to conduct local government elections. Whenever the one the condition expire, so that another one will be. You can imagine.
Thank you, Pastor Ladui. Thank you for your contribution. And one other thing that I noticed there is that education will help fight. You are talking about education now.
Yeah.
Will help fight this doctrine.
Yeah.
You know, they brainwash the uneducated ones, and it's very easy to brainwash them. But if these young ones at their early age, they are taken to school and they understand, what do you know?
Yeah, because at a very young age, the mind of the child is like what John Locke calls tabula rasa, is open to anything. So it's better you catch. You see, most of these people are very young people. These Boko Haram people,
of course,
you know, very young, in their teens, in their 20s. So that age, if that, you know, the devil finds work for idle hands. So, but if you are able to give them education, you know, give them the necessary that they need, nobody will be able to hijack their mind and twist it, manipulate it to suit their own ideology. So that's very important. They know Boko Haram is also conscious of this. Over 5,000 schools have been destroyed since 2009. They target schools because they know that these are the students that will take away their recruits. So what the governor is doing in Borno State is just wonderful. You know, you understand the problem, and I think coming out with a political solution, political economic solution, is one strategic way to address the problem.
Okay, we have Ambrose is calling us from Apapa. That's Lagos.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, Ambrose.
Yes, okay, thank you. You see, this is my first time of really getting people online. Thank Judy.
Congratulations, Ambrose.
Thank you, sir. I thank Judy and co.
Yes,
so may God continue to give them the grace to continue to do what they are doing.
Amen.
You see, he mentioned that of Zulu in Borno State. That he did try to compare it with what was happening in Niger Delta. And then where the comparison is good, it's not bad. It's not bad, but these people, the Niger Delta, they have a cause. They make reason. Everybody knew where they were fighting. Complete abandonment. That they were abandoned. Never infrastructure, no infrastructure, and nothing. But when we compare to these kind of people who over these years, almost 20 years, they have not come out with clear cut. So this is our norm. This is what we want. And this is what we want to do. So I pray that the present dispensation, what they are trying to do, what Zulu suggested, that in addition to military action, I pray it works. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution.
It's working already because people are being encouraged to
lay down their arms.
They are reaching them through informal channels, as I said. There are things that I can't say on air.
I think some people are even
routes, in terms of even the routes through which they are bringing them to come and surrender. So let me not go further. But I know that it's working.
And one other thing that I know that might be happening, I think some of them are battle weary. As in, they just to continue to live that kind of life.
Shekau people, you know, the Shekau people, you know, they've been with Shekau since this whole thing began. Some of them have up to 4 or 5 kids, and all those kids were born in the Sambisa forest. So, and a lot of them too, when Banawi suggested that they should merge the 2 factions, a lot of them didn't like the idea because they felt, going to Abanawi's faction now, the leadership that we enjoyed, we will no longer, the leadership status that we enjoy, we will no longer have it, and they didn't trust one another. So instead of going to work with Abanawi faction, they just made,
some decided to surrender, and some are still fighting on.
And a good number of those surrendering, let's also not forget, are not hardened fighters. They are not active fighters, you know. So you see them with their women, with their children. But when people are talking about, they will say so thousands have surrendered. A good number of those surrendering are not fighters. They are not a threat. But these ones now, hardened as they are, it will take a mighty effort to get them to say we are no longer fighting. They also know that, look, any attempt to surrender, they could be killed. So it's a lot more difficult to get the ISWAP elements to surrender, but we are beginning to see some of them too surrendering, and I expect the government and the people working for it to continue to make, work hard to get these people to surrender. The more they lose fighters, the best for us. It will mean that their days are numbered, because they need those fighters. The bombing and the military campaign has taken out a lot of their commanders, and a lot of their fighters are dead. So if they now lose more fighters to surrendering and laying of arms, then it's good for us. We can then be sure that this war would end very soon. I'm happy the governor himself said this was the result of a rocket attack.
Let's take our friend from Ikorodu. Wale is calling us from Ikorodu. It's been a while.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Wale.
Ayo.
Good evening.
I greet you.
I greet you, sir.
I'm Mr. Adeoye.
Thank you.
Your people have not been picking my calls.
I suspect so, because it's been a while.
I will query them.
My producer is listening to you.
Let us appeal to our people in the National Assembly to stop making universities and teaching hospitals their constituency projects. Look, federal government has no money to fund the existing universities and teaching hospitals. And every day, the other time, anyway, my state has benefited in the state, so I know. But the second point is on this issue of insurgency. General Buratai said something. You have not taken cognizance of it. He said the northerners are religiously attached to Boko Haram. Go and contemplate on it. God bless you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Wale.
Well, religion is at the root of this thing.
Yes.
But gradually, too, people are getting to know.
There can be counter doctrine.
Yes.
Just as in use counter doctrine.
What we've seen with Al-Shabaab, for example, people who are educated, even professors, people who had good jobs in the US, working in US corporations and doing very well. They left it to come and be rebels in Somalia.
If you remember,
it's amazing.
9/11. I saw probably what they call them.
Yes.
They were convincing people who were coming from
even this boy, even Abanawi studied abroad. He did not study here in Nigeria. This is very excellent English if you read what he writes. So you ask yourself, what's going on? But you see, once people have been brainwashed, it takes a mighty effort to get them to.
And they say that religion is the opium of the masses.
Yeah, it's just a variety of a sect. It does not represent the whole gamut of the religion that they claim to practice. I think it began with the idea of one Sayyid, an Egyptian, and then some people started, Salifa, Wahidism, and all that to begin to. But it's not a popular ideology. Even in Christianity, you have extremism. Yes. So we need to counter them at the realms of ideas, and that's why we need clerics to also join in the campaign.
It's a good thing the way they are mainstreaming those orphans into the system.
Yes, yes.
They are not just putting them in schools.
Taking them to school,
They are
teaching them,
taking good care of them. You know, so
reorientating them.
Yes, so those children, you know, when you go to the Northeast to do stories about these orphans, you see some of them, you feel like crying.
Yeah.
Because it's not their fault. I saw a girl, she can't be more than 5 years. When I show you that video again, of those orphans that I went, the girl can't be more than 5 years.
Nobody to call mommy, nobody to call daddy.
Again. And it's not their fault.
And she will need guidance.
Yes, it's not their fault. A war that they did not start has put their lives in jeopardy. So it's a good thing that government at least is doing its best to give them good living and give them hope.
I want to thank you, Wale Adeoye. Thank you especially.
Thank you very much.
For the last 2 hours you've been with us. Thank you for your contribution. And Biki himself, thank you for the contribution the last 2 hours. Journalist Hangout on Sunday, we told you. And that are offering this Sunday.